I gave everything to my son, Ryan. For 30 long years, I poured my heart, soul, and every ounce of strength into raising him. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every hard-earned dollar, I did it all for him. I nursed him through illness, paid for his education, and worked myself to the bone. I even gave up my own marriage, gave up pieces of my own life, just to make sure he could have a better one. But the day I told him I had lost my job, the day I stood in front of him, vulnerable and shaken, his response shattered everything I ever believed about love and gratitude. Without missing a beat, he sneered and called me a burden, a parasite. Then he told me to get out. That was the exact moment. Something inside me broke, and something else woke up. I wasn't going to be the mother who got walked on anymore. Not now. Not ever again. What Ryan didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the employer I had served so loyally for over a decade, the elegant and kind-hearted Eleanor, had quietly left me a fortune. $8 million. She'd seen my dedication. She respected me in a way my own family never did. And now, armed with that fortune, I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. I was going to show them the true cost of betraying the woman who raised them. The memory of that day is still I had just stepped through the front door, suitcase in hand, when I told my son I wouldn't be working for Eleanor anymore. I hadn't even gotten the words fully out when his face darkened. What? Ryan's voice cut like a whip, his hands clenched into fists. You quit? Just like that? Are you kidding me? That was $8 grand a month. What are you planning to do now? Sit around and freeload? For a moment, I stood there stunned. A flicker of joy, the warmth of finally coming home, evaporated as if it had never existed. Did he really think I left that job for an easy life? No, I left because I wanted to support them, to be closer, to help during this new chapter of their lives. But his words hit like a slap. Hard, brutal, no mercy. I bit back, the sting rising in my throat, forcing myself to stay calm. Ryan had been under pressure lately, I told myself. His wife, Vanessa, came from a family that had always looked down on ours. Her mother, Patricia, was a university professor. Her father worked in the local government. From the day they met, Vanessa's family had sneered at Ryan's background, treating him like someone who wasn't good enough for their precious daughter. Vanessa followed right along in their footsteps. She was always taking shots at him, his salary, his upbringing, anything she could weaponize to chip away at his confidence. Still, a part of me naively hoped, maybe once they found out about the inheritance Eleanor left me, they would finally start seeing Ryan differently. Maybe even treat him with a little respect. Maybe. But I didn't mention the money. Not yet. Instead, I tried to soften the moment. I told them the other reason I'd come home. Didn't you say Vanessa's planning to get pregnant soon? I asked gently. I thought I could come back early to help. You know, support her during the pregnancy, help with recovery afterward, maybe even lend a hand with the baby. Before the words had fully left my mouth, Vanessa's expression turned ice cold. Her lip curled in the faintest sneer, and I swore I even heard her scoff under her breath. Postpartum recovery requires professional care, she said flatly, folding her arms. No offense, Evelyn, but you used to work as a housekeeper. What do you know about that? Patricia didn't miss a beat. She shot me a dismissive glance, her voice clipped and condescending. She's right. Taking care of a newborn isn't just diapers and bottles. It's a science. You need real training. It's not something amateurs can handle. They were tag-teaming their dismissal so seamlessly it was obvious they'd rehearsed it beforehand. In the blink of an eye, I was reduced to an unfit, useless woman in their eyes. Good for cleaning but not even trusted to hold a baby. I gave a bitter smile, swallowing the humiliation that burned like acid in my chest. Nothing had changed. Not a single thing. They still saw me as nothing more than hired help, even now, even after everything. But I kept my voice polite, steady. Well, if everything's already arranged, then I won't get in the way. I'll leave the baby care to you. Patricia rolled her eyes as if I'd finally said something reasonable. Fine. But you'll be covering the cost of the nanny and the baby nurse. I'll handle the hiring and coordination. The breath caught in my throat. I blinked, stunned. For a moment I thought I'd misheard. Wait? What? Her gaze was cool, sharp. You heard me. Ryan jumped in instantly, seamlessly picking up the baton. Exactly. Mom, you shouldn't have quit that job. Our expenses are about to double. You should really think about going back. In that moment, everything clicked into place. So that's what this was. They never wanted me home to help or be part of the family. They wanted the paycheck. I wasn't a person to them. I was a walking, breathing ATM. I felt my face harden, my jaw set. I'm 58, I said quietly but firmly. I think it's time for me to retire. I've worked enough. Retire? Vanessa laughed, a bitter sound laced with disbelief. With what? You don't even have a pension. What retirement are you talking about? The words hit me like a brick. I opened my mouth, closed it again. I'd wanted to start a pension years ago, but they were the ones who talked me out of it. Told me to help pay off their mortgage instead. Told me I was family, and we'd figure it out together. Now that same decision was being twisted into a weapon against me. Vanessa tossed her hair back, her arms crossed. Honestly, Evelyn, it's because your income was pathetic. Who told you to buy a house you couldn't afford without a loan? You should have planned better. Ryan raised his voice. Enough. Vanessa's trying to get pregnant. You're just stressing her out, Mom. This is when we really need money the most. And you should be helping. You're still in great shape. There's no reason you can't work another 20 years. Save the retirement talk for when you're 80. I stared at him. Another 20 years. A hollow, cold ache spread through my chest. After everything I'd done, all the sacrifices, the years, the sleepless nights, they still saw me as nothing more than a source of labor. A pipeline for money. A tool, and it hit me then. Everything they'd ever said about respect, love, gratitude. It was all just sugar-coated lies. Lies to keep me working. I clenched my fists to steady the tremor in my hands, fighting against the tidal wave of sadness swelling in my chest. But this time, I didn't let it drown me. I said, my voice came out lower but sharper, slicing through the tension like a blade. I'm retiring. That's final. No one gets to make that decision for me. For a split second, something flickered in Patricia's eyes. Was it fear? Panic? She realized I wasn't bluffing. Her tone shifted instantly, smoothing over like honey covering broken glass. Look, Evelyn. It's not that we don't understand, she began, her hands lifting in a rehearsed gesture of diplomacy. But you have to be realistic here. There's no spare room in this house for you. You can't seriously expect to stay forever, right? I narrowed my eyes. What exactly are you suggesting? Patricia's lips curved, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, I happen to know a wealthy family looking for a live-in assistant. Good pay, room and board included. It's work you've done before. It should be an easy transition. Vanessa chimed in immediately, her smirk so wide it practically stretched off her face. Honestly, that's perfect. You could help lighten our financial load. Whatever you earn could go toward household expenses. Win-win, right? Right. Patricia nodded with faux cheer. Besides, Evelyn, let's be honest, you're not someone who really needs to rest. You've always been a hard worker. Going back to work wouldn't kill you. The venom beneath the sweetness was unmistakable. My fingers curled tighter around the hem of my sweater. My voice, however, remained unnervingly calm. I already quit. I'm not going back to work in anyone's house. Ever again. The mask slipped right off Patricia's face. Her eyes hardened, her mouth flattening into a grim line. Fine, she snapped. Then you'll have to make other arrangements. Her tone shifted again, now sharp with thinly veiled threat. There's a senior residence nearby, not bad actually. Decent meals, clean rooms, good facilities, and, she paused for effect, they offer work-based stays. You know, kitchen help, janitorial work, that kind of thing. You could apply, earn your keep. Vanessa's laugh was short, dry, and mean. Now that's reasonable. You can't just live in a hotel and expect us to foot the bill. At least in assisted living you'd be pulling your own weight. Stop expecting us to carry you. I stared at her, my jaw tightening, rage simmered beneath my ribs, a white-hot coil of disbelief and pain, but I refused to let it explode. Not yet. I folded my arms, keeping my tone deceptively even. I turned my gaze to Ryan. Tell me, Ryan, you really think it's acceptable to send your own mother off to scrub floors in a retirement facility, just to keep herself fed? His eyes darted away. For a moment I saw it. A flicker of guilt, the barest shadow of shame, that it vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. He squared his shoulders and kept up the same cold, rational facade. Mom, be realistic, he said, as if he were the reasonable one here. You always said you wanted to be independent. Isn't this the most dignified way? You support yourself. We don't owe each other anything. Then, without a trace of hesitation, he pulled out his phone, thumbs tapping. Actually, there's an open spot available right now. I called earlier. You can move into, and right there in front of me, his mother. He began dialing the number. It felt like my world tilted sideways. My breath caught in my throat, my hands trembling uncontrollably. I could hardly believe what I was witnessing. Ryan, my voice cracked. I gave everything I had to raise you. I drained my savings to buy you a home. I worked myself to exhaustion for you. And now, all you see me as is a burden you can't wait to get rid of. For one brief, fragile second, something flickered in his gaze. An echo of the boy I'd raised, the one who used to cling to my legs when he was scared. But then, rage swallowed it whole. He shoved my suitcase with his foot, sending it tumbling to the floor. His voice rose harsh and venomous. You think you suffered? That was your choice. If you hadn't divorced Dad, we wouldn't have ended up broke. I could have grown up rich. You ruined that. Don't stand there acting like a victim. Then came the words that sliced through me deeper than any blade ever could. Let me tell you something, Evelyn. You owe me, for the rest of your life. Silence. Total, crushing, suffocating silence. I stood there staring at the boy I'd raised, the boy I loved more than my own breath, and realized I didn't know him at all. Somewhere along the way he had turned into a stranger with my son's face, but none of his soul. A searing ache clawed through my chest, sharp and relentless, but behind that pain, something else flickered to life, a quiet, steady resolve. And then the final truth spilled out, words I'd never meant to say. But now, there was no point in hiding it. You have no idea, do you? I said, my voice hollow. The only reason I divorced your father was for you. His eyes widened, confusion wrinkling his brow. But I didn't. If I hadn't left that marriage, his so-called wealthy father never would have claimed you as his son. In fact, you would have ended up in foster care. Maybe worse. Dumped like a stray no one wanted. I pressed a trembling hand to my chest, trying to calm the storm, but it only raged hard. Every sacrifice I made, every sleepless night, every tear, every decision, all of it, was for you. But Ryan just stood there, jaw clenching, face reddening with fury. I stared at him, and in that stare the deepest truth unraveled. Do you want to know something else? My voice dropped to a whisper. You were never my biological son. The color drained from his face. You were adopted, I continued, my voice both ice and fire. The first time I saw you, you were barely a year old. I was volunteering at Crestwood's Child Welfare Center. You were tiny, frail, lips tinged with blue, your little body barely clinging to life. I swallowed the knot rising in my throat. The director told me, you were born with a severe congenital heart defect. Your birth parents abandoned you, left you in a dumpster. I watched as his mouth opened, then closed, once, twice, like he couldn't breathe. A passerby heard you crying and brought you to the orphanage. I finished, my voice trembling but firm. And I chose you, out of every child in that room. I chose you. I could still picture it perfectly the day I found him. How could I forget? You were so small, Ryan, so fragile. When our eyes met, something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the echo of my own childhood, losing my mother so young. Or maybe it was something deeper, something that had no name. All I knew was that I couldn't bear to walk away. I went home that night and told Leonard, my husband at the time. We spent days, maybe weeks, debating what to do. But the moment I pictured walking away from you, it felt like abandoning a piece of my own soul. So we made the choice. We adopted you. And from that moment on, you were mine, completely, wholly, irrevocably mine. We crisscrossed the country searching for the best doctors, the best surgeon, the best chance. There wasn't a hospital we wouldn't try, or a bill we wouldn't pay, no matter how far, no matter how expensive. I worked double shifts, triple shifts when I had to. Some nights I sat at the kitchen table, until dawn, sewing, crafting, doing anything I could to scrape together a little more. And somehow you survived. You grew strong, healthy, you made it, against every odd. But even survival had a price. Leonard changed. He grew colder. One day, out of nowhere, he sat me down and said he was done. Raising someone else's child isn't what I signed up for, he told me. His voice was sharp, distant. He wanted his own blood, his own lineage. He gave me a choice. Send Ryan back to the orphanage, or leave him, and raise Ryan alone. There was no hesitation, not even a second. I chose you. I walked away from my marriage, walked away from the house, walked away from the life we'd built, and I did it with nothing but you cradled in my arms, and the fierce, unbreakable certainty that I would never let anyone treat you like you were disposable, ever again. I never told you the truth back then, not because I was ashamed, but because you were already so sensitive, so unsure of where you belonged. I wanted you to believe that you were wanted, that the world could be kind, that love, real, enduring love, did exist. I thought I was protecting you, but looking at you now, at the man who stands before me with venom in his voice and hatred in his eyes, I realized I failed. Miserably. My voice trembled, but stayed steady. Never, never, in my darkest nightmares did I imagine you'd grow up to be this. Ryan's jaw tightened, his hands balled into fists. He opened his mouth ready to spit more poison, but I cut him off. Thank God. I breathed, a bitter edge lining my words. Thank God I never told you about the trust fund. For a second he blinked, confused. That was all the confirmation I needed. You have no idea, do you? I continued, letting the icy calm flow through me. The $8 million that was transferred to me when Eleanor passed. It's all mine, already legally secured, locked, untouchable. I watched the blood drain from his face. If you had known, I said softly, almost like talking to myself. God only knows how much uglier this would have become. Ryan stood there, frozen, his face a mess of confusion, fury, disbelief. And behind him, Vanessa stared, her lips parted, eyes wide like a shark scenting blood in the water. I took a breath. Steady, sharp, clear. Well, I said, adjusting my grip on my suitcase, if this is who you are, so be it. My gaze met his, colder than ice. From this moment on, we're done. You and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. I turned, reaching for the door handle, but Patricia surged forward and grabbed my arm. What do you mean done? She snapped, her nails digging into my sleeve. Ryan's your son. You're responsible for his future. You can't just pack up and walk away like this. Vanessa was right behind her, voice rising in indignation. Yeah! What kind of mother does that? You raised him, and now you just want to wash your hands of it. That's disgusting. Unbelievably irresponsible. I let out a laugh, a sharp, hollow sound that didn't hold an ounce of humor. You're a college professor, I said, turning to Patricia, an educated woman, and this is the argument you make. I shook my head slowly. Legally, a parent is obligated to care for a child until they turn 18. 18, Patricia. I've supported Ryan until well into his 30s, paid for his education, bought him a home, worked my fingers to the bone so he wouldn't have to suffer. My gaze snapped to Vanessa. What more do you think I owe him? Ryan's face twisted, voice cracking with rage. That's not parenting. That's you trying to pay off your guilt. Every miserable thing in my life is because of you. You owe me for life. I stared at him, numb, empty. Then his voice dropped lower, colder, more venomous than anything that had come before. Did you ask for my permission when you decided to bring me into this world? Huh? Did you? No. So yeah, you do owe me for everything. For a brief moment, I thought I might laugh. The sheer insanity of it was almost surreal, but no sound came out. I just stared at the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and realized he wasn't my son anymore. Not really. Maybe he never had been. I must have been blind, I whispered. Blind to have raised someone like you. Then I inhaled, straightened my shoulders, and let the final dagger fly. And if you've got so many questions about life, about why you were born, about fate, maybe you should take it up with your birth mother, the one who left you in a dumpster. I wasn't even sure if he registered what I'd said. His face froze, his mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, but no words came. Not that it mattered. It was no longer my concern. I wrenched my arm from Patricia's grip, stepped over my fallen suitcase, and walked out the door. Not once did I look back. As the door slammed behind me, their voices exploded into a mess of shrieks and accusations. "You're disowning your own son. You're not even human." Patricia's scream pierced the hallway. Vanessa's voice followed, dripping with scorn. "Yeah, let's see how far that so-called independence gets you when you're old and sick. Don't come crawling back to us, Evelyn. No one's going to hire some washed-up maid your age." I paused, my fingers tightening around the handle of my suitcase. Slowly, deliberately, I turned back toward them. I didn't step inside, I didn't even cross the threshold. I just stood there, calm, steady. "You should be more worried about yourselves," I said coolly, meeting each of their glare. "Don't forget the house you're living in, the one you treat like your birthright. Every last penny that bought it came from me." Their faces shifted, panic briefly flickering behind their fury. If I ever decide to take it back, I let my words hang, crisp and deliberate. "Don't be so sure you'll still have a place to live." Vanessa stormed to the doorway, jabbing her finger at my face. "Don't you dare touch this house. It's registered in Ryan's and my name's. It's legally ours. You have no claim." I raised an eyebrow, unmoved by her theatrics. "Fine," I said. "Then hear this, and remember it well. I don't care if it cost me the price of 2 houses. I will not let this house stay in the hands of a bunch of ungrateful leeches." Her eyes went wide. Then, as if someone had flicked a switch, she burst out laughing, a high-pitched, mocking sound. "You've lost it," she sneered. "2 houses, you probably don't even have $1,000 to your name. This house is ours. Our marital property. You're just a washed-up maid trying to bite off more than you can chew. Get lost." With that, she shoved the door shut with a thunderous slam, cutting off their faces, their voices, their poison. For a moment, I stood there, staring at the closed door. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I simply turned toward the elevator, pulled out my phone and opened the real estate app I'd bookmarked weeks ago. My thumb scrolled, gliding past luxury listings in Crestwood's finest neighborhoods. A bitter smirk tugged at the corner of my lip. If I didn't move into the best house in town, I'd be doing a disservice to the $8 million sitting comfortably in my account. That night, I checked into the most expensive 5-star hotel downtown. The suite smelled of fresh linen and lavender, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city skyline. For the first time in years, I fell asleep without the weight of anyone else's demands crushing my chest. The next morning, I called Eleanor's private attorney, Mr. Harris, and instructed him to start the legal process of reclaiming everything that was rightfully mine. In the days that followed, I lived from that hotel room while diving deep into Crestwood's luxury real estate market. I spent my mornings reviewing listings and my afternoons touring villas in gated communities. The taste of freedom was sharp, electric, addictive. A week later, I had an appointment to view a prestigious villa in one of the city's most sought-after developments, Crestwood Heights Villas. What I didn't expect was to walk right into a familiar face. The showroom was bustling. Despite the starting price of over $1 million, the place was filled with prospective buyers. High ceilings, marble floors, polished counters and a grand chandelier dominated the entrance hall. At the front desk, a young woman greeted me with a bright, professional smile. "Good afternoon, ma'am," she chirped. "Welcome to Crestwood Heights. Would you like me to walk you through the project details?" "Yes, please," I answered, grateful for her kindness. "I'd like to start by viewing the model homes." We hadn't taken more than 5 steps toward the display area when a sharp, cutting voice sliced through the air. "Who's handling client screening today? Do we just let anyone walk in now?" I knew that voice. I turned. There she was, Bella, Patricia's niece, Vanessa's cousin, We'd met before. Unfortunately, Bella was the kind of woman whose perfume smelled more like entitlement than flowers. She was a classic social climber, the type who dripped arrogance with every step, every glance, every word. Her stilettos clicked as she stormed over, hips swinging, hair perfectly curled, lips twisted in a sneer. Well, 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 her eyes scanned me up and down like I was something stuck to her shoe. Evelyn, what on earth are you doing here? I held her gaze, cool and steady. I'm here to view a property. Is there a problem? Bella scoffed. Oh, come on. A housekeeper. Seriously. Don't tell me you're here pretending to be a buyer. What, just looking to snag some free coffee and snacks? The assistant by my side stiffened. Bella! I was about to. Bella shoved her aside without even looking. Save it. Stay out of this. The humiliation was sharp, but I kept my chin high. I wasn't that woman anymore. The one who'd shrink under their sneers. Not today. Not ever again. A few people nearby turned their heads, some whispering, some with raised eyebrows, others smirking as if to say, "She's not wrong." Bella's voice sharpened. Security, she called, waving her perfectly manicured fingers. Two guards in black uniforms began walking toward us. Escort this visitor out. Now. The showroom fell into an uncomfortable hush. I didn't move. Instead, I calmly raised a hand, stopping the guards in their tracks. I came here to view a property, I said, voice firm. On what grounds are you kicking me out? I'd like to speak to your manager. I turned toward the crowd. All of you here to buy homes. Tell me, have I done anything inappropriate? Anything at all? The guards hesitated. Clearly they didn't want to be the ones caught in the middle of something messy. Bella crossed her arms, huffing. Go ahead, make a scene. Let's see how far you take this little act. Before I could respond, a young man in a crisp white shirt hurried over, wearing the strained but professional smile of someone trying desperately to fix a brewing disaster. Good afternoon, ma'am, he greeted, bowing slightly. I'm Alex, the sales manager for Crestwood Heights. Is there an issue here? Bella jumped in before I could speak. Alex, she's just here for the freebies. I was about to have security removed. Alex's brow furrowed, but he kept his voice neutral. Ma'am, I apologize, but, as you may know, this is an invitation-only showcase. We do require financial verification before proceeding. Without a word, I pulled a folder from my bag and handed it to him. They already verified my documents at the entrance. Bella snatched the folder out of Alex's hands, flipping it open with exaggerated flair. The color drained from her face. 5 million? She practically shrieked, loud enough for the whole showroom to hear. No way. This is fake. This has to be fake. There's no way someone like her has that kind of money. I know her background better than anyone. The whispers grew louder. People leaned in, curiosity replacing judgment. I didn't argue. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward them. The assistant beside me gasped under her breath, whispering as she counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my God! Over 8 million. The ripple of shock through the crowd was instant. Audible gasps, raised eyebrows. Someone even let out a low whistle. Damn, a man muttered behind me. She's loaded. Bella's face went from ghost white to a shade of blotchy crimson. Her lips twitched, her nostrils flared, and for a moment it looked like she might either faint or explode. But she wasn't finished. Not even close. This banking app, it's fake. Anyone can edit a screen, she stammered, voice rising to a near shriek. No way. There is no way someone like you has that kind of money. Alex's expression darkened. His polite mask began to crack. Bella, that's enough. But Bella wasn't hearing him. She pivoted toward the growing crowd as if searching for support. I know her. She's a maid. She used to clean houses. There's no possible way this is real. I'm not letting her scam anyone here. A few people shifted uncomfortably, some glancing between me and Bella as if trying to decide which side to believe. But most were now staring at Bella like she was the one causing the scene. Alex rubbed his temples, visibly trying to rein in his frustration. Ma'am, he said to me, I apologize for this. I'll assign you to one of our most experienced client managers. I held up a hand. No need. I turned to the young woman who'd greeted me when I walked in, the one Bella had shoved aside. She's perfectly fine, very professional. I want her to assist me. Alex hesitated. Actually, she's still in training. She hasn't handled any closings yet. I like her, I interrupted. Firm. I'm buying a house today, and I want to do it through her. The young assistant blinked, stunned. Are you sure, ma'am? Absolutely. Alex scrambled to recover, nodding quickly. Of course. Sophie, you'll be assisting this client. Please ensure she receives our full VIP service. Sophie straightened, squaring her shoulders with newfound confidence. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Off to the side. Bella stood frozen, her mouth trembling as if fighting between protest and panic. Her eyes darted wildly between Alex, me, and the crowd, searching for some lifeline that wasn't there. I want to see that one. I pointed to the scale model of the largest villa in the center display. Sophie's eyes lit up. Excellent choice, ma'am. This model features soaring ceilings, a private garden, a sunroom, and comes fully furnished. As soon as I laid eyes on the mock-up, something in me clicked. This wasn't just a house. It was freedom. It was dignity. It was the physical embodiment of every shred of self-respect I was reclaiming. I'll take it, I said without hesitation. Let's start the paperwork. Sophie blinked. Are you sure? Would you like to view more? No need, I smiled. This one is perfect. Her face broke into the widest grin I'd seen all day. Ma'am, this will be my very first sale. You're my lucky charm. As Sophie rushed to prepare the documents, the murmurs in the room swelled again. She didn't even hesitate. Damn. $150K deposit like it's nothing. That's real wealth. But, as always, some couldn't resist the urge to poison the air. Oh, please, sneered a woman in the back. Don't be fooled, Bella said. She's just a maid. Probably flashing around her boss's money. Another chimed in. Yeah, no way someone like that has real money. I mean, look at her. And then Bella's venomous voice slithered through the tension, pitched perfectly for the crowd to hear. Oh, you have no idea. She's not just a maid. You know the kind of leave-in work some of these women do for old men. Yeah. Not just cooking and cleaning, if you catch my drift. Gasps. Snickers. Raised eyebrows. I slowly turned, leveling my gaze at her. You're saying, I asked, each word precise, sharp as glass, that my son told you that? Bella's mouth opened, but she didn't answer fast enough. Interesting, I continued smoothly. Then let me tell you something. Your little cousin Ryan once told me with his own mouth that the only reason you hit your quarterly targets was thanks to the nights you spent in bed with your clients. Is that true? The silence was immediate, suffocating. Bella's face drained of every trace of color, her lips trembled. You're lying. That's slander. Oh, is it? I tilted my head. Funny. A few minutes ago, you seemed perfectly comfortable slandering me. I turned to Alex, who was now stiff as a board, his face cycling rapidly between horror and barely concealed fury. Alex, I said lightly, surely your company has policies about employees violating client privacy and engaging in defamatory public behavior. His jaw tightened. Bella, he snapped. That's enough. She crossed her arms, her body rigid. I only told the truth. She used to be a housekeeper. And enough, Alex roared. Security, escort her out. As of this moment, you are terminated. Bella's eyes went wide. She staggered, shaking. You can't. Alex. Wait, I wasn't lying. She's a cleaner. Alex's face was stone. You've violated company conduct policies in an unforgivable way. You're done. The security guards moved toward her, but I held up a hand. Not yet. Everyone froze. She's not going anywhere yet, I said calmly. Not until she apologizes. Publicly. Bella sneered, trembling. No way. Then I'm calling the police. Her scoff cracked in the air. You wouldn't. I lifted my phone. Hello, Crestwood Police Department. I'd like to report a case of public halathon and defamation. Her bravado shattered instantly. Her eyes widened as if she'd only just realized this wasn't a bluff. 10 minutes later, 2 officers walked into the showroom. One raised a brow when he saw me, the corner of his mouth twitching in recognition. "Oh, it's you again, ma'am." I gave him a polite nod. Bella surged forward. "Officers, you don't understand. This is all a—" "Ma'am." The officer cut her off, pulling out his notepad. "We've reviewed the security footage, and several witnesses have already confirmed. This is a clear case of public defamation. Either you apologize right now, or the client has every right to press formal charges." Her lip trembled. This is insane." The officer raised a brow. "Apology. Now." Cornered, shaking, Bella finally mumbled through gritted teeth. I'm sorry." She shot one last venomous look, half at me, half at Sophie, before storming out, heels clicking like gunshots against the marble. But the humiliation wasn't hers alone. The whole room had witnessed it. And when Sophie returned with the final contracts for the villa, her hands trembled, but this time with excitement, not fear. "Ma'am," she whispered, "thank you. I don't know how to even. This means everything to me." I squeezed her hand. "Sophie, you've just started your career, and today, you started it right." By the end of that day, I signed the contracts for the villa, paid in full without so much as a pause, and stood by as Sophie finalized every document with hands trembling from a mix of disbelief and joy. As the ink dried, whispers spread like wildfire through the showroom. "She didn't even blink signing. Did you see the price tag? Full payment. Who does that? That's what real wealth looks like." But predictably, the petty voices crawled back out of their corners. "Yeah, right. Like she isn't just flaunting her boss's money." "Oh, please." Bella was right. Women like that, they know how to hustle rich old men. I didn't even flinch. Let them talk. Let them stew in their small bitter world. Except Bella's absence seemed to leave a vacuum that someone else couldn't help but try to fill. "Oh, don't be so naive," came a voice drenched in venom. "She's not your average housekeeper. Do you know what kind of leave-in assistants some wealthy old men hire? It's not for cooking and cleaning." The murmurs that followed were equal parts scandalized and gleeful. Disgust curled in my stomach, but I didn't show it. Instead, I turned to Sophie, offering a gentle smile. "Sophie," I said smoothly, "could you get Alex for me again?" Her brows lifted. "Of course, ma'am. Right away." Moments later, Alex returned, his face composed but visibly eager. "Ma'am," he greeted, "please let me know what else I can do for you." "I'd like to purchase a second property," I said, folding my hands neatly in front of me. "One to live in, one as an investment." For a few seconds, the entire showroom went so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. "Another one?" Alex blinked. "You're absolutely sure?" "I don't make decisions twice," I replied coolly. Then I let my gaze sweep across the nosy onlookers, still whispering behind their hands. "Though, I do have a small favor to ask, Alex. I'd appreciate if you'd help me handle the unprofessional conduct from certain staff members today." Understanding flickered in his eye. His polite smile faltered just enough to show the steel underneath. "Of course, ma'am." His head swiveled until his gaze locked onto the group of whispering gossips. Then he turned sharply toward the sales desk. "Bella," he called, voice snapping through the air. "You're causing trouble again, aren't you? Apologize, now." Except there was no Bella left. And then it clicked. He wasn't looking for Bella. He was looking straight at the knot of women behind the counter, ones who'd been whispering and laughing the loudest since Bella's exit. One woman, mid-30s with hair pulled into an impossibly tight bun and wearing oversized sunglasses perched on top of her head, scoffed. "Apologize for what? We were just commenting." I let out a soft, humorless laugh. "Commenting?" I echoed. "Or publicly accusing me of exchanging favors for money. You do realize that's slander, right?" Her face twisted. "Oh please, you're going to get the law involved over gossip." "Actually," I said, pulling my phone from my bag with the same smoothness I'd once used to serve coffee and fold laundry, "that's exactly what I'm going to do." I dialed. "Yes. Crestwood Police Department? I'm still at Crestwood Heights Villa. I need officers dispatched to file a report for public defamation." "Yes." Again. Sophie, Azedmi, stifled a gasp, but her lips tugged upward in the smallest hint of a grin. It didn't take long. The same two officers from earlier strolled in, one of them immediately recognizing me. His smile tugged at the corner of his mouth as he shook his head with something that felt dangerously close to fondness. "You again." "Me again," I replied lightly. The woman with the bun surged forward, waving her hands. Officer, officer, you don't understand. This is all a big misunderstanding. Look at her. I mean, seriously, does someone like her look like she belongs in a place like this? The other officer's face went cold. Ma'am, what exactly does someone like her look like? She sputtered, caught in her own. I mean, just look at the way she dresses. You don't get money like that unless you're scamming someone or selling yourself. It's common sense. The first officer let out a long sigh, shaking his head. Ma'am, unless you have evidence of a crime, what you're saying falls under defamation. She has no proof of income. None. This isn't normal. I'm doing my civic duty to report suspicious activity. The officer crossed his arms. Or maybe, he said, voice flat, she worked hard. Maybe she earned it. Maybe she won the lottery. Maybe she got an inheritance. Either way, unless you have evidence, you're the one committing a crime right now. Her mouth opened, then closed. For a heartbeat she looked like she might double down anyway. Then something in her snapped. Fine. You want proof? She spat, whipping her phone from her bag. Let's see how easy it is to look this up. People like her always leave a paper trail. She frantically typed my name into a search engine. A beat of silence, then another, and then, her face paled. 8 million. The numbers were there. Clear as day. Trust fund. Inheritance. Every penny legally documented. Transparent. Clean. No scams. No tricks. Just the blessings of a life that someone else, a woman far more gracious than anyone in this showroom, had chosen to pass to me. Her phone slipped from her hands, clattering to the marble floor. You really, she stammered. I crossed my arms, watching her unravel. For a long, long second, the whole showroom held its breath. Then I inhaled deeply and smiled, not cruel, not mocking, just calm, steady, free. You should be careful, I said softly. Assuming you know someone's worth based on their appearance. That's a habit that'll cost you far more than money. The woman with the bun stood there trembling, lips parted, but no words came around her. Her little clique had scattered, some staring down at their shoes, others inching toward the exit, pretending they hadn't been part of the jeering moments before. I didn't give them another glance. They weren't worth it. Turning my focus back to Sophie, I softened my voice. Now, where were we? Sophie, bless her, had been standing to the side the entire time, clutching the folder of contracts like a life raft. Her eyes shimmered, whether with nerves or excitement. I couldn't quite tell, but she straightened her back, offering me a bright smile. Final signatures, she said with a little breathless laugh. Then we can process the payment. Perfect. Together we sat at the marble signing desk. The papers were smooth under my fingertips. The moment the pen hit the page, something shifted deep in my chest. A release, a severing of invisible chains I hadn't even realized were still wrapped around me. With the final signature, it was done. 2 villas, both fully paid. No mortgage, no debt, no string. Sophie's hands shook as she neatly stacked the contracts. Ma'am, I don't even know how to thank you. This is my first sale. Actually, my first 2 sales, ever. Her voice cracked a little on the last word. I smiled, genuine and warm. No need to thank me. You handled yourself with grace. You deserve this. Her lips trembled. I was starting to wonder if I was cut out for this job. But this means everything. Alex returned a moment later with the final invoice. His posture was straighter now, professional but distinctly more respectful than it had been earlier. Ma'am, he greeted, on behalf of Crestwood Heights, allow me to express our deepest apologies for the earlier incident. We value clients like you greatly. Thank you, Alex, I replied, my tone cool but polite. I trust the matter has been handled. Completely. His jaw tightened. Bella's employment was terminated effective immediately. As for the other staff members involved in the inappropriate remarks, corrective actions are being taken. Good, I said simply. Additionally, he continued quickly, eager to please, we'll be offering you complimentary moving services, property cleaning, and 1 year of free home maintenance for both properties. I raised an eyebrow but smiled. I appreciate that. Sophie perked up immediately. Ma'am, If you'd allow me, I'd love to personally oversee the cleaning and prep for your move-in. I'd like that very much. I nodded. The moment felt light. Not just because of the purchases, but because of what they symbolized. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't showing off. This was me finally taking back control of my life. On my terms. By the time I stepped out of the showroom, the late afternoon sun was casting a soft golden glow over Crestwood. The warmth kissed my skin as I slid into the waiting black car arranged by the agency. The city felt different now, bigger, brighter. No longer a looming shadow filled with expectations I could never meet. It was mine, my world, my rules. I checked back into the five-star hotel with a satisfaction I hadn't known in years. The concierge greeted me by name now. My suite smelled like fresh flowers, and the champagne the hotel sent up as a congratulations was already chilling in a silver bucket. But the universe, it seemed, wasn't finished testing me. Just as I sank into the velvet armchair by the window, my phone buzzed. Ryan. Of course. I stared at the screen, lips curving into a bitter smile. Part of me wondered what angle he'd come at me with this time. I almost let it ring out, but no. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to know. I picked up. His voice burst through immediately, loud and accusatory. Mom, what the hell did you do to Bella? Her whole family's coming after us now, demanding answers. Do you know how bad this makes us look? I tilted my head, amusement curling through me. Us? There is no us, Ryan. Don't start that again, he snapped. You seriously stirred up trouble. Now they're blowing up our phones, saying we humiliated their family name. Do you even realize how childish this is? My smile widened. You're right. It is childish. But you know what? It's not my problem. Mom, he hissed, lowering his voice, as if pretending this conversation was some kind of negotiation. Look, let's just move on, all right? And there it was, the shift in tone, the tilt toward charm, coated with just enough feigned remorse to sound believable. So, he continued, the calculation barely hidden beneath the softness he was trying to force. Mom, who's your new employer, huh? They must be seriously loaded. I mean, clearly you're doing pretty well. Ah, there it was, right on cue. The scent of money, like a shark catching blood in the water. I let out a soft, humorless laugh. Ryan, it doesn't matter who they are. Oh, come on, don't be like that. We're still family. No, I interrupted, my tone flat. Final. We're not. Let me say this one more time. We're done. For good. Then, with one clean motion, I hung up and blocked every single number connected to him. Vanessa and Patricia. Every single one. A silence followed. Not the hollow, aching kind that used to seep into my chest after fights. No, this one was clean, crisp, liberating. For the first time in years, I was untouchable. What I didn't expect was that just days after moving into my new villa, fate would toss yet another familiar face into my path. It was a quiet afternoon. I'd stopped by a high-end piano showroom downtown, casually browsing grand pianos, something I'd never let myself even dream of owning before. I had just settled onto the bench in front of a gleaming white grand, fingertips skimming the keys, when the showroom's glass doors swung open. A familiar voice floated in, sharp, shrill. Oh God, the voice scoffed. This is what passes for clientele these days. They're just letting anyone touch the instruments now. I turned, and there she was, Patricia, flanked by her usual circle of equally self-important friends, dripping in designer labels and barely concealed scorn. Her eyes landed on me, and the sneer practically jumped onto her lips. Well, Evelyn, she said, folding her arms. Did you even wash your hands before touching that instrument? God knows what kind of germs you've got crawling on you after, well, whatever it is you've been doing these days. Her little clique chuckled on cue, glancing me up and down like I was something foul stuck to the bottom of a shoe. That's the housekeeper-in-law you were talking about, right? One of them said, not even bothering to whisper. Didn't even know people like that were allowed in places like this. Another woman, her hair sculpted into a dramatic bun, and oversized sunglasses perched on her head, snorted. She probably can't afford to buy one, just here to pretend. How embarrassing. The sales associates exchanged a glance, one clearly uncomfortable, the other trying to smooth over the tension. "Ma'am," one of them offered me with a polite smile, "please feel free to continue trying the piano. That's exactly what they're here for." I nodded gratefully and let my hands drift back to the keys. Let them talk, I told myself. Just let them talk. Because if they thought for 1 second I was leaving, they had another thing coming. I took a deep breath, letting my fingers hover over the ivory key. The murmurs behind me, the sneering laughter, the passive-aggressive whispers, they all faded, drowned out by the soft hum of music waiting to be born. I pressed the first note, then another, and soon the room filled with the gentle, melancholic strains of Moonlight Sonata. The notes floated, delicate yet sure, wrapping around the polished pianos and plush carpets like a thin veil of silver mist. My fingers moved instinctively, fluid, confident, each key striking not just sound but memory, resilience, and something far deeper. A sharp scoff sliced through the air behind me. "What even is that?" muttered the woman with the bun, her arms folded tight across her chest. "Sounds like noise. Who taught her to play? She thinks she belongs in a piano store with that mess?" But I didn't flinch. I closed my eyes and let the melody carry me, to all the nights sitting by Eleanor's side, the evenings where music replaced words, where lessons weren't just scales but expressions of dignity, of grace. She was the one who taught me that beauty was for everyone, not just for the rich, that I deserved to touch beautiful things, that my hands, worn from years of labor, could still create something soft, something beautiful. When the final note faded into silence, I slowly lifted my hands, a beat of stillness. Then, from behind me, soft but steady, came a smattering of applause. I turned, surprised. A small group of younger customers had entered while I played. They stood near the entrance, their faces open, genuine, not a hint of mockery on them. "That was incredible," one of them breathed. "I've studied piano for years, and I still can't make Moonlight Sonata sound like that." "Seriously," another added, "you captured the entire mood. Dreamy, sad, but strong. It was amazing." I blinked, caught somewhere between gratitude and disbelief. I wasn't used to praise, not for something like this. Behind them, Patricia's posture stiffened, her brows knit together, her mouth twisting in confusion. It was like she couldn't process what she was seeing, what she was hearing. How could someone like me, someone she'd spent years looking down on, hold the room with nothing but music? She opened her mouth to speak, but the woman with the bun beat her to it. "So what?" she scoffed, loud and bitter. "She can play one song. Big deal." If she's really that impressive, she stood abruptly, tossing her handbag over her shoulder. "Then pay for the piano. Right now." Her words were meant to sting, to humiliate. She expected me to shrink, to stammer, to fumble out an excuse about how I was just Instead, I calmly reached into my handbag and pulled out my card. "Of course," I said smoothly, handing it to the waiting sales associate. "Please run it." The woman's jaw slackened. "Wait, you're serious?" The sales associate smiled, suddenly energized, and tapped at the screen. "That'll be $155,000. I typed in my PIN without blinking. Transaction approved. The sharp beep of the machine seemed to echo through the room. The bun-haired woman paled, her eyes flicked from the sales terminal to my face, to Patricia, then back to the polished grand piano now officially mine. The associate handed me the invoice with both hands, respectful, a little giddy. "Ma'am, may I have your name for the paperwork?" I smiled. "Evelyn Turner." A loud choking noise sounded behind me. Patricia's head snapped toward me so fast I thought her neck might twist. "Wait, you bought this? You?" Her voice cracked between disbelief and something uglier. Something tangled between envy and sheer panic. I folded the invoice neatly into my purse. "That's right." Her lips trembled. "And the 2 villas, those were yours too." I nodded slowly, letting the weight of the truth settle like iron in the air. "The contracts are in my name. The payments were mine. So unless someone snuck my signature while I wasn't looking..." "Yes, Patricia, they're mine. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. But, but, you were just a housekeeper. Where did you get that kind of money? Every word from her mouth was thick with accusation. Her disbelief wasn't that I had money, it was that someone like me could have it. I met her gaze head on, cool as ice. Every penny I've spent was earned legally, through honest work, through loyalty, through someone believing in me when no one else did. But Patricia scoffed, shaking her head, her hands flailing. No, 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 don't give me that. No way. You must have done something shady, scammed someone. No one like you just gets that rich. The bun-haired woman jumped right back in, eager to pile on. Yeah, she's a scammer. That's how people like her get money fast these days. It's obvious. And before I could stop her, she whipped out her phone. You know what? I'm calling the police. This whole thing stinks. The sales associates stiffened. Customers murmured in alarm. And the woman, furious, trembling, stabbed at her screen. Hello? 911? Yes. I'm at Sonata Fine Instruments. I need the police. There's a scammer here, trying to pull something shady. Then she hung up and stormed toward me, arm outstretched like she intended to grab me. The staff stepped in fast, blocking her. Ma'am? That's enough. But her hysteria only grew. She flailed, shrieked, her words tumbling over each other in a whirlwind of accusation and paranoia. This isn't right. People like her don't belong in places like this. She's a fake, a liar. I can feel it. She's conning someone. I know it. At first I thought it was just pure malice. But then, as she fought against the store employees holding her back, the real reason cracked open behind her rage. You don't understand, she wailed. I was scammed. 6 months ago, I lost everything. Over $100,000. Gone. And now I see people like her walking around, flaunting, pretending. You think I can just let that happen? The weight of it hit me. Her fury wasn't really about me. It was the festering, unhealed wound left by someone else's betrayal, now lashing out at whoever stood in front of her. And right now, unfortunately, that person was me. It didn't take long for the police to arrive. 2 uniformed officers strode through the showroom doors, firm but calm. And to my surprise, it was the same pair who'd responded at the Villa showroom just days ago. The taller one recognized me instantly. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Well, seems like we meet again, ma'am. I dipped my head slightly, my expression polite but tight. Officer. Before I could say more, the woman with the bun sprang forward like a wind-up toy, her hands flailing as she pointed toward me. That's her. That's the scammer. She's pretending to be rich, flaunting all this money, but it's fake. I know it's fake. Arrest her. The officer blinked unimpressed. Ma'am, do you have any proof of these allegations? Proof? She sputtered, her voice rising into a near screech. Of course not. You think scammers leave proof? Look at her. Look at how she's dressed. People like her don't have money. It's common sense. The second officer's brows lifted slowly, his mouth tightened. Ma'am, let me remind you that accusations without evidence are considered defamation under the law. The woman faltered. But I know. She's pretend. How else could someone like her afford 2 villas and a grand piano? Huh? Tell me that. Patricia jumped in then, her voice sharp with desperation. Exactly. Evelyn was a housekeeper. No education, no career. You think she just… what? Won the lottery? The first officer tilted his head, crossing his arms. Maybe she did. Happens all the time. Patricia's mouth opened in disbelief. Don't be ridiculous. The woman with the bun was spiraling fast now. If you won't arrest her, then investigate her. Check her bank record. No one goes from scrubbing floors to buying villas without something shady going on. The officer held up a hand, silencing her. Let me be very clear. Either you present actual evidence of fraud, or you're looking at a defamation charge. Right now, her eyes darted frantically around the room, hoping anyone would back her up. But the crowd had gone dead silent, most pretending they weren't staring while absolutely staring. Her gaze snapped back to me, filled with both hatred and panic. Fine. You want proof? I'll find it. She pulled out her phone and stabbed my name into the search bar. Her thumb scrolled furiously. And then her face blanched. 8 million. It was there. Public record. Eleanor's estate filings, trust documentation. Clean. Legal. Verified. Her jaw slackened. Her phone trembled in her hand. You really. Her voice cracked, trailing off. I confirmed, folding my arms. The silence was deafening. Even Patricia, who had been preparing to launch into another tirade, snapped her mouth shut. Then, like something in her finally broke, the woman with the bun's phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the marble floor. Her hands flew to her head. This can't be real. The taller officer sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Ma'am, I strongly suggest you take a step back. The woman's breathing hitched as she looked between me, the officers, and her still glowing phone screen. You don't understand. I was scammed. 6 months ago. $100,000. Gone. And seeing someone like her, all this money, her voice faltered, cracking open, raw. That was the real wound, the festering sore beneath all her rage. Her fists trembled at her sides. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't fight back. I lost everything. And then I see someone like her walking in here, acting like she owns the world. How was I supposed to believe it wasn't happening again? Her voice collapsed into a broken whisper. I just couldn't. The room went unbearably still. For a heartbeat, no one said anything. Not even me. Because for the first time in this ridiculous, humiliating display, I saw her, really saw her. Not just as another snob drunk on her own privilege, but as a woman who'd been broken, crushed by betrayal, desperate, and drowning. But her pain wasn't my burden. I stood straighter, lifting my chin. I'm sorry for what you went through, I said quietly. But that doesn't give you the right to slander strangers. The officer nodded. Exactly. Ma'am, you owe this lady a formal apology, right now, or she has every legal right to press purchase. The woman's mouth trembled, her shoulders hunched. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice a barely audible shred. I can't hear you, the officer said flatly. Her jaw clenched and through gritted teeth she forced the words louder. I'm sorry. I gave her one small nod. Apology accepted. But this is your only warning. She stormed out, head bowed, shoulders trembling. Not with rage this time, but with something that might have been shame. Patricia stood frozen, mouth twisted, uncertain whether to speak or flee. Her eyes darted to me, then the officers, then the grand piano now being polished by one of the store employees preparing it for delivery. Patricia's lips trembled. You were a maid. Just a maid. How did this happen? I turned toward her, meeting her stunned gaze with perfect calm. I was, and now I'm not. I didn't need to say more. The receipts, the villas, the piano, the trust, the $8 million in my account said everything. As she gaped at me, visibly unraveling, I smiled softly. Patricia, if I were you, I'd be more worried about where you're going to live. Because that house you're squatting in, the one I paid for, you might want to start packing. Her face drained of every bit of color, and with that, I turned away, calm, unbothered and completely free. That evening, I sat by the window in my hotel suite, watching the sunset melt over Crestwood's skyline. The sky blushed in hues of orange and deep lavender, the clouds like smears of gold dust. For the first time in, perhaps decades, the silence wasn't heavy. It wasn't loneliness. It was peace. My phone buzzed. I glanced down, fully expecting it to be some real estate follow-up or Sophie confirming move-in details. No, it was the concierge. Good evening, Miss Turner, he began, his voice both hesitant and apologetic. A delivery was left for you at the gate, a large bouquet of flowers, with a card. I felt my smile freeze. From whom? He cleared his throat delicately. It says, wishing you a lovely weekend. Love, your son, Ryan. A sharp, humorless laugh punched out of me before I could stop it. Oh, the audacity. Please deliver it directly to the kitchen, I replied smoothly. Drop it in the trash. The concierge paused, perhaps surprised by my calm tone. Very well, ma'am. Oh, and one more thing, I added. Could you kindly take a photo of it in the trap? Crushed petals, broken stems, the whole thing. Send that photo back to the sender, with a message. Future deliveries from this person are permanently refused. His brief silence was thick with professional discomfort, but I could hear the faintest chuckle slip through. Understood. I hung up, set the phone down, and for a moment just stared at the city. A part of me wondered, is this really the end of it? Will he finally give up? But of course Ryan didn't give up. No, not someone like him. When the flowers failed to deliver the message, he escalated. It started small, him waiting at the gates of the gated villa community. Every day, rain or shine, workday or weekend. Whenever I left or returned, there he was, leaning against his cheap little car, pretending to look casual, his eyes tracking every movement like a predator waiting for weakness. One day he dropped to his knees on the sidewalk, theatrically sobbing. Mom, please, don't be angry anymore. I was wrong, okay? I was wrong. No matter what, I'm still your son. How can you be this cold to me? Please, come home. Let's fix this. His wails were loud enough to attract stares from drivers passing by. Pedestrians slowed, their eyes flickering between us, some shaking their heads, others openly gawking. I didn't even glance at him. I kept my head turned toward the driver, my window rolled firmly up. By the 5th day of this nonsense, I was done. I hired a full-time driver. Every day I rode in the back of a sleek black SUV with tinted windows. The gate guard knew not to let anyone approach the vehicle. The car glided past him like he was invisible. No eye contact, no words, no mercy, and still he kept coming. 2 weeks straight, until one day, he simply vanished. At first, I sighed in relief, but I should have known better. Ryan wasn't disappearing. He was recalibrating. He started digging, and eventually, he found the one person I never expected him to contact. Leonard, my ex-husband, the man who had once held my hand when we adopted Ryan, then, years later, demanded I choose between him and the son he no longer wanted. It had been over 2 decades since I'd last heard his voice. The phone rang one ordinary afternoon, while I was organizing furniture delivery. I picked it up automatically, not recognizing the number. Evelyn. The voice was deeper than I remembered, but unmistakable. For a moment, all the breath left my body. Leonard. My tone was flat, neutral, cold. How did you get this number? Ryan gave it to me. Of course he did. I just thought you should know, Leonard continued, his tone disturbingly casual. Ryan came to my office, cried, begged, said you'd disowned him, told me he needed me to talk sense into you. I scoffed. And let me guess, you told him what? I told him the truth, Leonard said, sharp now, that I haven't been his father for a long time, that I've had no involvement in his life since the day I walked out. I told him I wasn't his biological father. I sat back slowly. You actually told him, didn't give him the full truth, Leonard clarified. Didn't mention the dumpster, didn't mention the adoption file, just told him I wasn't that whatever's going on between you and him has nothing to do with me. A bitter taste filled my mouth. Why call me? Leonard sighed heavily. Because you deserve to know. The kid's a mess. And whatever's coming next, brace yourself. He hung up before I could answer. I set the phone down and stared at it for a long, long time. It was coming. The confrontation I'd avoided for decades. The one where Ryan would finally face the truth he was so desperate to deny. I mentally rehearsed it. Imagined the moment. I would tell him everything. That he wasn't my biological son. That I wasn't obligated to be the endless well he kept trying to drain. That if he wanted answers, he should go track down the woman who had left him in a dumpster and ask her. But the confrontation never came. Because Ryan didn't come knocking with questions. Instead, he took a far darker turn. One I hadn't seen coming. It started with the looks. The lingering stares from neighbors in the villa community. The smiles that were a little too forced. A little too brittle. conversations that would abruptly trail off when I entered a room, whispers exchanged behind manicured hands, passing glances that tightened into judgment. At first, I dismissed it as remnants of gossip from the villa showroom fiasco. Crestwood was a wealthy neighborhood, but wealth had never immunized anyone from pettiness. I told myself it would blow over, but it didn't. One afternoon, as I was watering the newly planted roses along my front path, my phone buzzed. A name popped up on the screen. Sophie. Evelyn. She began hesitantly, voice trembling just enough to make my chest tighten. I just wanted to check on you. I saw something online. Please, don't let it get to you. I blinked. Online? What do you mean? There was a pause, an uncomfortable one. It's Ryan. He started live streaming on Viewcast. Her words settled in my ears like ice water down my spine. I hung up before she could finish. My fingers trembled as I opened the app. It took less than a minute to find it. The title hit me like a punch to the chest. How My Mother Abandoned Me. There he was, Ryan, on camera, pale, disheveled just enough to look tragic, but not enough to seem staged. His voice trembled with carefully measured grief. My mother never really loved me, he was saying. My whole life I worked so hard, studied so hard, but she never cared. The year I got into college, she just left. Moved to another city to work as a live-in maid for rich people. Left me living alone in a tiny rental apartment. He sniffed theatrically, wiping at his eyes. When I got married, not a single penny from her. And now that she's rich, she cut me off completely, like I don't even exist. A long sigh. I don't even want money. I just want her to acknowledge me as her son. But she won't even say my name. The comment section was a battlefield. Bro. That's heartbreaking. Stay strong. She's a monster. No mother would do that. She only loves money. Typical. Sending you $20. Hope it helps. A notification flashed. He was selling merch now. T-shirts with phrases like motherless but unbreakable, and abandoned but not broken. Followers flooded in. Donations rained down like pity confetti. Stay strong, King. We love you. You deserve better. I'll be the mom you never had. Every line felt like a dagger, not because they believed him but because for a moment, I had once believed in him too. I watched in horrified silence as the comments stacked faster than I could read them. His follower count surged. Sponsors started popping up in the corner. One brand even offered him an ambassadorship. But the worst, the subtle shift in the narrative. Ryan hadn't outright called me immoral. He hadn't said I was a scammer or a mistress. No. His weapon was more insidious. He painted me as cold, ruthless, a heartless mother who abandoned her child for money. It was smart. It was devastating. And it worked. By nightfall, my inbox was filled with hateful messages. People had dug up my name, my address. Photos of my villa started circulating online. I had officially become the internet's most despised mother. A villain. A symbol. The woman who abandoned her son for money. My phone rang again. This time it was my lawyer, Mr. Harris. Evelyn, he said, brisk and professional but unmistakably concerned. I've seen the broadcasts. We can move forward immediately. File for the removal of defamatory content. A cease and desist order. A lawsuit for harassment and damages. Whatever you want. For a few seconds I just sat there, staring out at the glossy moonlit surface of the private pool behind my villa. Then, slowly, a strange calm settled over me, a clarity I hadn't felt in years. No, I said softly, not yet. Mr. Harris was silent for a beat. Not yet. A slow smile curved my lips. Let him perform a little longer. He exhaled, a chuckle slipping past his usually stoic tone. Very well, but when you're ready, just say the word. I will, I promised. But first it was my turn. That night, I created an account on Viewcast. I titled my stream, "So This Is the Mother Who Abandoned Ryan." When the live stream went live, I started small, quiet, calm. Then I jumped into his stream first, dropping several thousand in donation gifts, enough to light up the screen with golden fireworks that caught everyone's attention. The chat exploded. "Who is that? Be a whale donor. Who? Rich Auntie Energy. Then my message slid across the screen in bright neon. Hi everyone. I'm the heartless mother Ryan's been crying about. I'm live right now. If you want the truth, come watch. And tonight, I'm giving away $100,000. First come, first serve. It was like throwing a match into gasoline. Ryan's viewers flooded over in waves, crashing my channel. The numbers spiked so fast even the platform's algorithm couldn't keep up. Comments flew by like confetti. Wait, what? Is that really her? Popcorn's out. Let's go. $100 Ks? You're kidding? I let them pile in. And then, looking straight into the camera, I smiled. First of all, yes, I cut financial ties with Ryan, but that doesn't make me cruel. And it certainly doesn't mean I abandoned him. I held up a scanned document, the notarized trust paperwork left by Eleanor. The money I have came from my late employer, a woman who treated me like family, a woman who made me her sole beneficiary, because of my loyalty, my work, my dedication, because I was there when no one else was. I slid another document onto the screen, the property purchase agreements, then the hospital bills, then the tuition receipts, then the deed to Ryan's house, the one I paid for in full. I paid for everything in his life, his education, his home, his health, and when I was no longer useful to him, they threw me out of that very house. My gaze didn't waver. I didn't walk away because I stopped loving him. I walked away because his greed became unbearable, because he stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as a bank. The comment feed exploded. A tsunami of question marks, exclamation points, and stunned reactions. Wait, what? She has receipts. No way. This is not the plot twist I was expecting. I kept going. Voice steady, cool, measured. Not a hint of the rage I'd carried for so long. Just clarity. You've heard Ryan say, I walked away for no reason, that I abandoned him. I continued, sliding an image onto the screen, the photo of the house I bought for him. But this house? I worked 2 jobs, 3 at times, to save every penny. He didn't pay a cent. And when I quit my job for the first time in decades to finally rest, to help with their growing family, they told me I was a burden, a freeloader, and kicked me out. The comment section surged again. Oh me, they kicked her out of the house she paid for. Nah, this is crazy. What did I just walk into? This is why I need popcorn at all times. A few skeptics popped up. Yeah, but still, she's his mother. Isn't it her job to support him? I didn't flinch. Good question, I said, staring right into the camera. Let me ask all of you watching, what does it mean to support a child? Does it mean raising them into adulthood? Because I did that. Does it mean helping them build a life? Because I did that. Does it mean draining myself until there's nothing left forever and ever, no matter how they treat me? My voice hardened, because to Ryan, that's what being a mother means, being an endless ATM, being disposable. Once I stopped providing, then I dropped the final hammer. There's one thing Ryan never told you, I said softly, something he's always known but never wanted the world to hear. The chat exploded with, wait, what? She's about to drop something crazy. Spill it. Now. I leaned forward, gaze steady. Ryan isn't my biological son. Silence. The chat froze for a full 5 seconds before erupting. What? Bro? I was not ready. Explain. Right now. I nodded, already prepared. I adopted Ryan when he was 1 year old. I was volunteering at a child welfare center. He'd been born with a severe congenital heart defect. His birth parents abandoned him in a dumpster. A passerby heard his cries and brought him to the orphanage. The gasp in the chat felt almost physical, like a wave hitting me through the screen. I brought him home because I couldn't bear the thought that him suffering, I continued, voice tightening. My then husband and I spent years trying to save his life, but 2 years later, my husband grew cold. He said he was tired of raising someone else's child, gave me an ultimatum. Either send Ryan back to the orphanage, or leave. I let the truth settle. I left. She chose him over her husband. Holy, this woman is a saint. No, I'm crying. No way. I worked day and night to keep Ryan alive. I continued. Every job, every sacrifice, every sleep night was for him, and never, not once did I tell him the truth. Not because I was hiding it, but because I didn't want him to carry the pain of knowing he was abandoned twice. Once by his birth parent, then again by the man who was supposed to be his father. Tears blurred my vision, but my voice didn't shake. I wanted him to believe that love was real, that family was real. I didn't want him to grow up thinking the world was cruel. I wiped at my cheek and smiled bitterly. But look where that got me. The chat exploded. Nah. I judged you. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. This isn't abandonment. This is survival. He used her. Plain and simple. The way she still tried to protect him even now. But I wasn't done. I wasn't going to say anything further. I continued. But since Ryan decided to bring our private family matters to the internet, let's go ahead and play this. I tapped the screen and uploaded an audio file. It was a recorded phone call, captured by accident by the security system of the elderly man's household. A call where Ryan, clear as day, was heard saying, "Look, just get my mom to move in with Mr. Chen. She can work as his live-in assistant. Yeah, cleaning, cooking, whatever else he needs. She's in good shape. No reason she can't keep working another 20 years. Plus, if she moves in there, it's free housing. And if she's earning, that covers our expenses too." The comment section exploded into fire. Oh, my God. This ain't just ungrateful. This is exploitation. Bro tried to sell his own mother into servitude. Cut him off. Block him. Bury him. Donations started pouring into my stream. Not pity. Not charity. Just people showing support. Comments like, "You're a warrior. You deserved better. This is financial abuse. Plain and simple. Ma'am. Respect." Massive respect. But the tide was turning faster than I expected. Back on Ryan's stream, viewers started flooding the chat. "Explain this, Ryan." "Bro. We heard the recording. How dare you? You used your own adoptive mom and then lied about her for money." Ryan's face on his own stream was visibly crumbling. His chat spiraled from supportive hearts to pure outrage. And still, I wasn't done. "Do you want the final proof?" I asked my audience. I uploaded one last document. A scan of the official adoption certificate. This is public record, verified, notarized. The chat collapsed into chaos. "It's over. It's done. She has receipts on receipts. This woman is the final boss." The fallout was immediate, violent, catastrophic. Ryan's comment section, once filled with sympathy and support, now flooded with pure, relentless outrage. "You disgust me. You lied to everyone. You used your mother for views, for money, for pit. No way did you spin this whole sob story while living in a house she paid for. Bro, how do you sleep at night? You're not a victim. You're a parasite." His face on the stream shifted, shock first, then panic, then the thin veneer of performance cracking entirely. His hands flailed, trying to plug the holes in the dam that had burst wide open. "Wait. No, listen. They're all lies. You don't know her like I do. You don't understand the things she's done." His voice was ragged, frantic. "She's manipulative. You think money makes her right. She never loved me. Never." But the chat wasn't listening anymore. It was done. "Bro, we believed you. We defended you. And you lied. This isn't about money. This is about what you did to the one person who saved you." "Nah. I'm out. Reporting this channel." And they did. Mass reports flooded in. By the end of my stream, Ryan's Viewcast channel was hit with multiple policy violation flags. Harassment, targeted defamation, financial abuse. By midnight, his stream went dark. This channel has been suspended for violating community guidelines permanently, but I wasn't finished. That same evening, Mr. Harris filed a formal lawsuit, defamation, harassment, and emotional distress, accompanied by a court injunction demanding that Ryan permanently cease all false statements against me, both online and offline. He would owe damages. He would pay my legal fees. More importantly, he would be silenced, legally barred from ever painting me as his villain again. For the first time since this nightmare began, I slept soundly. The court process was swift. There was no defense. No angle Ryan's pitiful lawyer could conjure that held water against the mountain of documents, recordings, and irrefutable proof I presented. The judgment was brutal. The judge's words were crisp. This is not a case of family dispute. This is a clear and sustained pattern of financial abuse, character assassination, and public harassment against a person who spent her life providing for the plaintiff. Ryan was ordered to pay damages, including all legal costs. His social media accounts were permanently terminated under court order. Any attempt to create new accounts under his name or related pseudonyms would trigger immediate enforcement action. The day the ruling was finalized, I stood on the front lawn of the house that once had my name, before I let them slap their own names on it. Not anymore. My legal team had initiated property reclamation proceedings immediately after the trial. The house, my house, was successfully reclaimed under the grounds of fraudulent deed transfer, given that I had provided every financial document proving I funded 100% of its purchase. I walked through its familiar halls, trailing my fingers over the walls, the door frames, the windowsill, the same house I'd sacrificed years of my life to buy. For the first time since handing over the keys all those years ago, it felt like mine again. Not as a gift, not as charity, but as what it always was, the product of my sweat, my blood, my relentless labor. This time, no one would ever take it from me again. 3 days later, Vanessa filed for divorce. No hesitation, no theatrics, just a cold, clean severance. I heard through the grapevine that her signature appeared on the papers the same day the movers arrived to haul her things out of the house. She didn't say a word, didn't look back. It wasn't out of compassion. She'd simply seen him for what he truly was, a man who whined about being wronged, but never once took responsibility for his own life. A man who could spin 1,000 excuses but never lift a finger unless someone else was paying. With the house gone, his income stream cut, and the social media career obliterated, there was nothing left to leech from. Vanessa walked away like someone kicking the dirt off her shoes. And Ryan vanished. Months passed. Life became quiet, peaceful. The villas I'd bought, I sold both, at a handsome profit, thanks to a timely surge in the housing market. What once symbolized fury and defiance had transformed into the seed money for a new chapter. I moved to a quiet lakeside town on the western edge of Crestwood. It wasn't the most expensive neighborhood. It didn't need to be. My house was bright, airy. Sunlight poured through wide windows, pooling onto soft wooden floors. The kitchen always smelled of freshly brewed dark roast coffee. My garden bloomed with wisteria and rose. An easel sat under a tree in the backyard, waiting for lazy afternoons spent painting. There were no demands here. No one accusing me of being cold. No one claiming I hadn't done enough. No one calling me mom, only to follow it with a request for money. Here, I belonged to no one but myself. For the first time in my life, I breathed. Sometimes when old friends visited, they would ask me quietly, "Evelyn, do you regret it? Adopting Ryan?" I'd thought long and hard about that question, but now, when I hear it, I just smile. Steady. No, I answer. I don't regret it. My gaze always drifts out the window then, watching the wind stir the lake's surface. I only regret not understanding sooner that kindness should never come at the cost of self-destruction. That learning how to protect myself was the most important lesson of all. I pause. I wasn't a perfect person. I wasn't a saint. But I became something better. I let the words settle. A woman who finally lived for herself. And it turns out, it wasn't too late after all. This story teaches us one powerful truth. Kindness should never come at the cost of your dignity. No matter how much you sacrifice, if someone only sees you as a tool, it's okay. No, it's necessary to walk away. You have the right to choose yourself, to rebuild and to live life on your own terms. If this message touched you, please like, subscribe, and share to support the channel. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories like this to life. And tell me, which country or region are you watching from? I'd love to